All right, Bernie Sanders supporters and progressives everywhere, we need to have a conversation that no one else seems to want to have. Thanks for tuning in. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. And of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. So, after Bernie Sanders won the popular vote in Iowa and New Hampshire, a lot of people have been very excited. And although it is great that Bernie has beat the establishment, at least as far as the popular vote is concerned, I think that some people are kind of deluding themselves as to how dire the situation is at the moment. And I'm not saying this so that you just stop fighting and give up, regardless of whatever candidate you support. But what I am saying is this is where you must fight harder than you ever have before. Fight like your lives depend on it. Demand accountability like your lives depend on it, because to be quite frank, it basically does. So as most of you all know at this point, Bernie Sanders did in fact win the popular vote for the Iowa caucuses. Then he went on to win the popular vote for the New Hampshire primary. Now, every time I've said this online, I've put this in quotations and people get upset. I don't know if they think I'm MSNBC or CNN or something. Like I wouldn't be like, I don't understand why people think I would want Buttigieg to beat Bernie, because clearly we're not that. But people get upset, and I imagine it's an emotionally triggering discussion, considering that the mainstream media has basically been smearing Bernie Sanders nonstop, and in some instances trying to erase his feats. But I do have to put win in quotations. And it's upsetting to me that I feel like some people are doing what they've basically done the entire last year, and some people even going even further back, have been doing the same thing they've been doing for 3 years, which is completely and totally ignoring the play on the field, completely and totally ignoring what took place in 2016, and pretending as if an overwhelming victory will solve all of our problems, when we don't even know if an overwhelming victory is possible because of all the misinformation coming from the mainstream media, right? Now, even though Bernie Sanders won the popular vote, he won New Hampshire and Iowa, and nobody's a little bit worried that he's still behind Pete Buttigieg for the delegate count. Now, anytime somebody from the neoliberal establishment comes at me with this nonsense, well, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, so okay, and who's the president? Is she in the executive office right now, writing executive orders? Is she giving the State of the Union address? I didn't think so. Symbolic victories under the current laws don't mean a damn thing. Delegates win elections, ladies and gentlemen. That's something we can't conveniently ignore because we get some foo-foo symbolic victory. And make no mistake about it, at this very moment, the popular vote is merely a symbolic victory if it does not come attached with delegates. The Electoral College, the delegates from the Electoral College helped Trump win in 2020. Hillary Clinton even understood that you needed delegates and super delegates to super popular votes that overturned the 2016 results in states like Michigan, where Bernie won, and then the super delegates gave it to Hillary Clinton. No, it was super delegates. Delegates are the name of the game, no matter how inconvenient that may be to us. And we cannot forget this. Now, if you want to understand, if you want to put things into perspective, and I really wish that Twitter didn't unbookmark my image, because I bookmarked this image so that I could use it today. And of course, Twitter, put it up, or they took it out. like they always do nowadays. You can't like something and make sure the like is still there, the bookmark's disappearing. Twitter being Twitter, I guess. But it was an image on MSNBC where they say the establishment is beating Bernie. It's literally a picture of Bernie, and they show his 20 delegates. Then they have the picture of Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and either Biden. No, I think it's Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Biden, and Warren. Where they have their delegate total, it's 41. Because that's, I mean, I hate to be real. Once again, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but we're going to have this conversation. That is the accurate portrayal of what we are seeing right now. I know people want to say, well, Bernie's only losing by 1 delegate. That's not factual. The total right now is 41 to 20 in favor of the establishment. And that's a fact. And we saw out and out rigging in Iowa, right? And yeah, Bernie did his best, but it's still, the results are really questionable, right? The results are still questionable. In New Hampshire, we are coming to find out, which is something I'm going to cover and elaborate on later, that the New Hampshire primary might have even been rigged, which unfortunately, I said, I can't say that. I said New Hampshire might be one of the most secure election systems in the country, but I said in the counties that use the AccuVote machine. We covered it right here because somebody asked me a brilliant question about how to prepare for New Hampshire and what we should be looking for. And I have been talking about the AccuVote machine since before I left to New Hampshire. I talked about the AccuVote machine while we were live streaming in New Hampshire. I said in the metropolitan areas, in the congested areas that this machine is going to be used, you will likely see some rigging come into play. So, not only are we dealing with the entire establishment against Bernie Sanders, but we are also dealing with the situation that they're rigging it. And because people are celebrating these symbolic victories, like the popular vote, they're not actually seeing and questioning results like what we saw in New Hampshire. Oh, well, it's cool if they tie. I've said from the beginning, a tie in our situation is a loss. A tie in our situation as progressives, as someone who's trying to defeat the entire establishment, is a loss. If you don't understand why, let me explain to you. The rules say to prevent the DNC from becoming, or the Democratic National Convention from becoming a brokered convention in Milwaukee, you have to get a total of 1,991 delegates. Okay? Now, there are a couple of ways you can achieve this. Obviously, you can just win outright and obliterate everybody, but it's not going to happen. Right? It's not going to happen. We're seeing it right in front of our eyes. It's not going to happen. It may have nothing, it may have zero to do with Bernie's actual popularity and everything to do with election rigging and electioneering. It's just a fact. And nobody wants to call it out. People want to pretend like we can overwhelm election fraud. No, you cannot. So you need 1,991 delegates to win. Bernie is currently getting beat. 41 total establishment delegates to 20. And what I mean by that is, once the establishment gets to the convention, they will horse trade delegates like we have been talking about on the channel since actually before January 2019. But let's just say the beginning of the election in January 2019, we've been warning people that this was coming. And I have been saying we need to ensure that if at all possible, we need Yang to stay in the race. We need Marianne Williamson to stay in the race. We need Tulsi Gabbard to stay in the race, because the establishment is not going to push its own out because of this exact scenario. And I said, if we do not have at least Yang, Tulsi, or Marianne Williamson in this race, to back up Bernie, then we would be putting Bernie Sanders on an island in which he probably can't overcome. And this was before Bloomberg became a major factor. So as he is losing 41 delegates to 20 delegates, those numbers are likely to grow. Yeah, Bernie might win another 15 or 20 in South Carolina, but he will largely split those delegates with Joe Biden. Yeah, he might win, maybe even 100 or so in California, but he's likely going to split those delegates with Bloomberg and Warren and Buttigieg, where they will get the summation of about 300. He's losing in Florida right now to Bloomberg. New York, we know what time it is. They're going to rig it. LA, Pasta and Fiorella did a fantastic job covering it. They're already working their magic in LA. So just to give you a better understanding, California has a total of 415 pledged delegates that can be won there. You think Bernie's going to win 300 of those? No. They're already, like I said, go watch the segment that Pasta and Fiorella did with the poll worker, the whistleblower. They're already planning on rigging it out there. With Bloomberg skyrocketing in the polls simultaneously. The Florida Democratic primary, in which Bloomberg and Buttigieg and Biden in a lot of polls are currently beating Bernie Sanders. In that primary, there are 219 pledged delegates, and Bernie will be lucky to leave away with 25 to 30 of them. Mind you, this is the same Florida where the largest voting precinct in the entire state is controlled by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, where it was stolen from Tim Canova not once but twice, where the person who assisted and aided and abetted a stolen election was merely fined, not put in prison but fined, and then she had to rig it again in the general election for people to finally and then a Republican, a Republican who actually wanted to see some accountability, DeSantis, ended up forcing her to resign, but she's still not in jail. So there wasn't really any genuine accountability. But this is still a district. That district, and by the way, even if it wasn't rigged, right? Even if it wasn't rigged, I can't even say that precinct would go to Bernie because it's a bunch of Zionist Jewish people that live there. Literal Israelis who have dual citizenship. I mean, so he was already going to have a tough time here anyway. That's 219 delegates. Bernie will be lucky to get 30 to 40 of them when the largest precinct is already rigged openly. And I don't even know if he will win it, even if it wasn't rigged at this very moment. So New York, 274. California, 415. Florida, 219. Those are pledged delegates. Bloomberg is currently winning. There was a poll of 3,000 likely Florida Democratic primary voters. 27% will go to Bloomberg so far. And in a recent poll, Quinnipiac, Bloomberg 15% in a national poll. He is ahead of Elizabeth Warren in a national poll. Right behind Biden, who is probably about to drop out because he doesn't have the money. So when you couple rigging with just the sheer fact that Bernie can't possibly appeal to everybody, plus the fact that Buttigieg is a cheater and a liar, plus the fact that how many people in the progressive independent sphere have been propping up Elizabeth Warren as an heir apparent to Bernie Sanders. And now she has delegates that will not go to Bernie Sanders at the convention. Manny, this is going to be a challenge. 100%. It is. It is. So when you couple the fact that not only, you know what, not even the independent YouTubers who are propping up Warren as the second most progressive in the race as some type of, they would say, oh, you know, she's really progressive. I mean, she's not Bernie's level, but she's still acceptable. Only for her to go turn around and stab Bernie in the back, which was easily predictable. But then his staff, Ro Khanna, David Sirota, AOC, who's a surrogate, Ilhan Omar, who's a surrogate, propped up Elizabeth Warren too, knowing hot damn well those delegates were not going to go to Bernie Sanders. Then, when you couple that with the fact that there were people who spent more of their time begging Tulsi Gabbard to drop out, smearing Tulsi Gabbard, attacking Tulsi Gabbard, lashing out at Tulsi Gabbard, hell, lashing out at Andrew Yang, attacking him. They spent more time on candidates that were not really going to have much of an adverse effect over Bernie Sanders' chances of winning delegates. Then they spent substantively criticizing Elizabeth Warren until she just went full nuclear and started going crazy on Bernie. And even then, they're still defending her. Even now, Cenk is saying, you can make up with Bernie and we can make a unity ticket. You can make a unity ticket. They spent more time trashing Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang and even in some cases Marianne Williamson than addressing the big ass elephant in the room: election fraud. Everybody wanted to continue to say, we can overwhelm the vote. We can overwhelm the vote. We can overwhelm the vote. And as I've taken heat, Pasta as he's taken heat, Fiorella as she is taking heat, even though she's a hardcore Bernie supporter, was saying that's not how this works. I don't think you understand how rigging works. We had a chance, ladies and gentlemen, to pass the Securing America's Elections Act not once but twice. Would it have passed in the Senate? Honestly, I can't tell you yes or no. I honestly cannot tell you, because the reason that the Senate rejected Amy Klobuchar's bill was because it was fugazi. It was a bunch of cash giveaways for basically nothing, with no guaranteed returns and no real secure election systems, and it gave a monopoly to voting machines. It has made sure that they had to be processed by, they had to be created by an American company to be used in American elections. Not that they had to be open source, but it still allowed them to be proprietary. We wouldn't have had control over anything, once again. But because it was introduced by Tulsi Gabbard, right? The original legislation, Tulsi's legislation, which we know she can get Republicans to work with her. And prior to her running for president, she was even able to get Democrats to work with her. But then she messed up, of course, and God forbid, she stood on her principles and backed Bernie in 2016. But my thing is, guess what? If we would have had more people talking about the Securing America's Elections Act, it would have driven people like AOC, people like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Bernie Sanders himself, including maybe even Ro Khanna, to do the right thing and actually have an eye out on election integrity issues prior to the election. It would make everybody understand, oh, okay, this is serious, and we're watching not only for the Republicans, but for the Democrats as well. But that's not what happened. We ignored it, right? Because if it isn't Bernie who introduced it, and if it's anyone else who introduced it, oh, well, God forbid, that might make them competition for Bernie Sanders, and we don't want that. What if Bernie doesn't back that bill? What if Bernie Sanders doesn't, what if he doesn't introduce a joint resolution or a joint bill in the Senate? People want to say something about him. I don't want to put him in that situation. Instead of, doing what was best for democracy. Y'all spent, not you all, but many people spent so much time demonizing anyone who could have been considered an ally to Bernie Sanders at this very moment where he will need them in this race. Y'all spent so much time demonizing them that you refuse to substantively criticize the system and check the system that was really holding Bernie Sanders back. And you didn't spend any time asking him to do this. Like, hey, Bernie, we appreciate what you're doing, but we can't pretend like these fools ain't trying to rig the election. I mean, Tom Perez, and I gotta give a shout out to Nina Turner. I do gotta give a shout out to Nina because Nina has not been pretending. But I can't. That's basically where the buck stops. Manny, thank you for the super chat. I'm assuming you meant preach, not peach. But preach, independent media that likes Bernie but pushed Warren, shot themselves in the foot. They literally just lost delegates. That's a fact. It's crazy because every time that Tulsi was kept off the debate stage because they literally just stopped polling. Every time she was kept out of a town hall event, the majority of the influential Bernie supporters were silent. Do you know who Tulsi takes people from? Maybe a couple from Bernie, a couple. But if they like both Tulsi and Bernie, just for practicality's sake, they'll usually go to Bernie, from my experiences. But Tulsi takes people from Klobuchar. Tulsi takes people from Buttigieg. A lot of veterans who said their only two options were Buttigieg and Tulsi, but because Buttigieg had a chance of winning, they went Buttigieg. Tulsi takes people from Biden. Tulsi takes people, maybe not from Warren necessarily, but she also brought in a lot of independents. And even if she took a few people, right? If she took a few delegates from Bernie, just if for the greater good, those delegates, if he would have won and had a chance to get over 51%, we don't have to question where the delegates would have went. We don't have to question that. But when she was silenced, the most influential people that also considered themselves Bernie supporters exclusively were also silent. Many of these people were not concerned with upholding democracy and defending democracy, but instead defending Bernie Sanders if democracy, if the process was rigged against him. That's not defending democracy, though. You're defending Bernie Sanders. But if you pick and choose when you want to speak up to defend democracy, this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. When you pick and choose when democracy is important to you, this is what happens. Do you really think that Bloomberg wants? Why do you think he didn't give a damn about once again, I shouldn't have to explain this. Hold on. Glory, thank you very much for the super chat. I feel like too many progressives are hurt at the idea of people being ideologically and completely independent. Thanks for being part of the 2% of the channels that actually talks about election integrity. Hey, I appreciate it. It's really a duty, though, to be honest with you. It should be a duty for anyone who cares about progressives winning. At least that, like, even strategically, you want to talk about election integrity. if you want to win. But why do y'all think that Bloomberg just didn't go to New Hampshire? Why do you think he didn't go to Iowa? Why do you think he didn't go on the debate stage? Why do you think he didn't care to? Because I don't need to win 1,991 delegates like Bernie does. I need to make sure that Bernie Sanders doesn't win 1,991 delegates. And I can do that by winning 8% here, 10% here, 12% here, 25% here. And as they are accruing delegates on their way out, because Biden is going to be on his way out soon, Warren will be on her way out soon, Klobuchar being a little bit longer, Buttigieg will be in even longer than that, but even they will eventually be forced to phase out because their donors will demand it of them. On their way out, guess who those delegates are going to? Because if you think that Warren is dropping out before Super Tuesday, yeah, good luck with that, because she's not going nowhere. Warren's sole purpose to stay in this election is to use the Super Tuesday delegates she gets from California to give to whoever the establishment may be, so she can barter for a position in their administration. Buttigieg, his ego won't let him drop out, especially when he knows that he can openly rig and people like Tom Perez won't say shit about it. Why would he drop out? He saw the entire mainstream media cape for him after he lied about a victory and then attacked Bernie over it. Why would he drop out? If Bernie doesn't just obliterate everybody in the first Super Tuesday, it's over for us. I need people to understand that, because basically you get like what, almost 1,000 delegates are available after the first Super Tuesday, or combined with Iowa and New Hampshire and Super Tuesday, almost 1,000 delegates are up for grabs, I think, total. And then what, the second Super Tuesday, and which is in April, maybe there'll be almost another 1,000. If Bernie doesn't absolutely obliterate them, that's it. And that includes California. He has to do something in California that would have been possible if we had addressed election integrity. Don't throw away ally because you disagree with TYT. Huh? I really don't get that. But TYT is an ally of mine. It has nothing to do with disagreements. But it's, I don't know. I just feel like we some people are living in a fantasy world, and it's just, we need to have this competition. I mean, or not competition, conversation. I've just seen so many people focused on, well, when is Tulsi dropping out endorsing Bernie? What is that going to do? What is that going to do? The same people who are saying that she needs to drop out and endorse Bernie are the same ones who are silent as she was silenced, just so you could get to this moment where you can beg her to drop out and endorse Bernie. Endorse him, and then what? Have the 2-3% or 4% of her votes, that popular vote, I should say, not delegates, but popular vote, that would have went to Bernie, be completely erased in election integrity? What does that do for anybody? What the hell does that do for anybody? There's only one person who's been bold enough to call out the system for what it is, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. You better be begging she stays in at this point. The mainstream media is 50 to 60% to blame for Tulsi being silenced. However, what, the other 40%? is every single Bernie supporter that was silent and complicit in rigging against an ally and rigging against someone who sacrificed her entire career to do the right thing in 2016. Y'all were silent because it wasn't happening to Bernie, so it didn't matter, right? The person who was telling everybody, hey, I literally left the party because of election rigging and election fraud. You know, we still haven't solved this problem, right? That's the one you want to silence. That's the one you want to malign and lie about. Then you had Yang, who wasn't, he wasn't my favorite on foreign policy, but he had a good heart. He was a genuine guy. He had a great policy. You might not have liked the way it would have been implemented, but I've always been a fan of UBI. I've been talking about it for a couple of years now. And I mean, he ain't that far off from Bernie on foreign policy. And yet and still, people were attacking him. The people for Bernie Page called one of Yang's top surrogates after the entire world was begging for Yang's endorsement. They called Scott Hastings, who's a very nice guy, debated him. I learned a lot from that man. Genuine guy, knows his economics. He's been talking about UBI since before it was popularized, since before Yang announced. He was a Bernie supporter in 2016. The people for Bernie Page, a verified account with hundreds of thousands of followers, called Scott Hastings a grifter because he supported Andrew Yang. Tony, no, the message with TYT. Oh, okay, I appreciate it. I was confused for a second. Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. Trump voters are unneeded in this primary. South Carolina and 24 other states have open primaries. Trump voters should break it off in the military-industrial complex and vote Tulsa in the primary. Use this resource. I would like to think that was going to happen, but I'll be honest with you. From what I saw in New Hampshire, they seem to be dedicated to showing the Democrat establishment that they're not going anywhere and that they're going to turn out in higher numbers than they did before. 180,000 people turned out to vote for Trump in a primary that he knew he was going to win. They were campaigning. I'm not joking with you. In New Hampshire, they were campaigning like they were already in the general election. Y'all think that man playing? He is not. As he is building a coalition of disenchanted former Democrats, disenchanted left-leaning independents, the Democrats have been alienating their primary base. And Bernie supporters who have been alienated have then, not everybody obviously, but enough of them went on to alienate all of Bernie's allies. Not Bernie himself. Bernie himself didn't alienate, not at least not attacking her anyway, I should say. But Bernie himself didn't alienate Tulsi. But a lot of his supporters did. Even his surrogates went on to attack and malign his number one ally in this election. And it's crazy to me how, with all the flaws of the establishment Democrats, they saw one obvious point that we have been trying to get the rest of the world to see. At least everybody here at the MCSC network has been trying to do. We've been trying to get the rest of the world to see the Democrats are literally not demanding that anyone drops out. In fact, they're begging everybody to stay in. They don't have to drop out yet. They don't have to drop out yet. They got one delegate. They're good. They don't have to drop out yet. Look at all these other states they can. They don't have to drop out yet. They figured it out already. Hey, we don't have to win. We just got to beat Bernie. And we know what that requires. And we'll let them eat each other alive. We'll plant the stories. We'll plant stories about Tulsi. We'll be silent. We will silence Tulsi. We will keep her out of the debates and watch Bernie's supporters allow it to happen. Not even realizing, yeah, it's kind of about Tulsi, but it's really about making sure that we take out any ally to Bernie that could help him get over that 51%. And unless things dramatically change for Tulsi's campaign, I don't know if she'll be able to get a delegate to get on the stage in time, because she'll get a delegate in Super Tuesday. I think Hawaii is in the upcoming Super Tuesday, so she'll get a delegate. But I don't know if that will be in time to jump on that stage and get Bernie's back. I don't know. Erica Jill, thank you very much for the super chat. Also, if she drops out before the convention, she can't give any delegates. She gains in the case of a broker convention. Isn't that how we're? No. If you drop out before the convention, you can still because as long as you suspend your campaign and don't completely end it, you can still give delegates at a broker convention. And thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Sparky, New Hampshire isn't completely open. You're right, it's semi-closed. But they still turned out for him. If you're an independent, which majority of the voters in New Hampshire are, you can vote wherever you want. Trump voters may still vote for Trump in the general, but will understand the value of sending a message not listen to Pompeo. Some states, I think that could happen. Some states, I do believe that could happen. But if New Hampshire is any indicator of how 2020 general election gonna go, boy, I feel bad for the Democrats. I feel bad for this country. Yeah, I got you, Sparky. I figured you meant Trump in general. So the moral of the story is, people, Bernie supporters, progressives, even if you don't support Bernie exclusively, bro, you gotta get up off your ass and stop pretending like everything is sweet right now, because it is not. We are not winning right now. And anybody who tries to pretend like we are, they're not being, maybe not even purposely being dishonest, but they're not telling you the truth, because we're not winning. I'm so tired of people saying Tulsi should drop out, no respect for independence. It's not even about having respect for independence. I mean, honestly, it's for people to saying Tulsi should drop out, that's just idiotic. It's just stupid. It's stupid. You spent so much of your energy on Tulsi Gabbard. When first the argument is she doesn't have any votes, then it's she's going to take votes away from Bernie. Huh? But also her endorsement will help Bernie. But maybe her endorsement would have helped Bernie if y'all helped to maintain her positive image over the last year. But not only did some people tear her down or allow her to be torn down, they actually contributed to trying to tear down her character. Using these ridiculous, these racist and oftentimes sexist tropes. Oh, I don't know. There's something about her I don't trust. Something about her. What? Like her being willing to sacrifice. I remember somebody said she was willing to sacrifice her career because she was trying to save her career. It was a selfish act. Really? So she was willing to not be propped up to be the president, so she could harm her career in order for her to one day become the president. Makes sense, I guess. Whatever. Question: Has Tulsi already said, "Man, we should just stop fighting for single payer"? You know, the worst case scenario is we get a public option if we fight hard for single payer. Was that her who said that? Was it? I didn't think so. Tulsi advocated for a single payer with a private option like every other country in the world, except for every other country in the world. And they attacked her for that. AOC is a surrogate in Bernie's campaign. Already, hey man, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? We get a private option or public option. Which public option, for those of you who don't know, means that you have to buy into it. And zip, because God forbid you tell the truth, you might lose some subscribers. We know what happens with that. Why not reach out and use unused Trump voters for Tulsi's primary? They likely they had some Trump voters did vote for Tulsi. Some Trump voters did vote for Tulsi in New Hampshire. A lot, actually. So it's not like they're not voting for her, when they get the opportunity. So that's a good thing. But Trump does have his people out here trying to make a statement right now to the DNC. So to those who were smart and remembered, who's on whose team, Bernie supporter, Tulsi supporter, etc. Hey, thank you. Thank you for putting the movement first. To those who decided that, because I just want you to notice all those people who were attacking and maligning Tulsi, all those people who were swearing we could just ignore all that stuff, ignore election rigging. We just gotta overwhelm the vote. You believe this? Yeah, overwhelm the vote. Yeah, right. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren's the second most progressive in the race. They really believe that shit. All those people that were attacking Tulsi, calling Elizabeth Warren the second most progressive in the race, telling you to ignore election rigging, election fraud, propagating the lies about Yang, about Tulsi, even making fun of and belittling Marianne Williamson, those people got promotions. Those people got like 50, 60, 70,000 subscribers this year. Those people got shows. They write, they writing books. They doing it all. They traveling the country. They cheer. They get their wine glasses up. Cheers, everybody. What a successful year it's been. And look where we're left at. They're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. There are millions of available Trump voters. I mean, yeah. That's true. It's true. But yeah, I was saying, man, it's they're chilling. They're having a good old time. All those people that attacked us, maligned us for trying to do the right thing, attacked Fiorella, who is a hardcore Bernie supporter, because she would not bend the knee and attack Tulsi Gabbard meaninglessly with lies. They're chilling. They're good. They got their subscribers. They got their patrons. Like I said, they got their shows. Now they're traveling the country doing their live shows. Seems a little bit more profitable to tell a lie than it is to tell the uncomfortable and inconvenient truth, huh? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Rockfin as well. Shout out to all my Rockfin premium folks out there. We got another episode of MCSC Uncensored coming this week. Yeah, obviously, I took the week off from the podcast because I was in New Hampshire. But we got another one coming this week. Yeah, and other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.